Good evening, everyone. In lieu of trailers, we have a really special conversation. And as I set that up here, just wanted to welcome you all. My name's Eric Cohn. I'm the artistic director here at the Southampton Playhouse. And I'm curious how many people here are seeing Spider-Man for the second or more time? Good. I have a couple of people. We're not going to spoil it for the rest of you, but we do have a really special introduction here. I'm joined on this giant IMAX screen by Brett Pawlak, the cinematographer of the movie, as well as Nat Sanders. And fellas, I'm going to turn it around so you can see people in the theater, and it's not just me in a vacuum. So everybody welcome our special stars introducing the movie, the stars from behind the scene. And on this amazing IMAX screen, the only IMAX in the Hamptons, a really exciting opportunity to talk about some of the craft behind the movie. What people will see is, of course, a blend of so many different skill sets, so much technology and craftsmanship coming together. Um, Brett, why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about what's involved in the web slinging stuff that because you're going to see Spider-Man, flying all over New York City. So, what's involved in kind of shooting that sort of stuff that people see throughout the movie? Because it's really impressive on the big screen.
Yeah, the well, thanks for coming out to the theater, first of all. Thanks for coming and seeing the movie. I think that that was the most exciting part for me was getting into the web swinging bit. I think there's a lot of drama, there's really great scenes and performances, but the chance to be able to shoot and try to get the best web swinging that we've seen yet in a Spider-Man movie, especially Tom Holland one, was definitely a challenge, and we definitely accepted it. It's a collaboration, really. The web swinging is everything from practical effects to full VFX. Stitches, and it's a lot. There's a lot that comes together to make a good web swinging sequence. The design of it from conception of the storyboard artists all the way down to the finishing VFX artists. And I have a very small part of that process of trying to get as much practical swinging as possible. Any elements that VFX needs, or full practical to full VFX. It runs the gamut of multiple ways of which we accomplish a web swing, dependent on of what we're going for. But different camera rigs, plenty of different cameras. We really tried and tested a bunch of stuff. So I hope that you guys enjoy it, especially on the IMAX screen.
Yeah, now can you talk a little bit about finding continuity and all this stuff? There's so many dramatic moments when Spider-Man goes from point A to point B to point C. So, what kind of challenges does that create as an editor?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that exact topic, we had quite a bit. We had even more web swinging sequences in the movie, and then, on these films, we do a good amount of previews where we bring in test audiences and we show them the movie and we find out what's working and what are areas that we can still keep strengthening and improving. And in one of the early versions, we said we a couple different people fill out cards and questionnaires, and a couple different cards both said, uh, enough swinging. We get it. They go from point A to point B. We get it. So we did tone that down a little bit. But that's a big part of the process on these films is just continuing to refine the movie by showing it. And I think about it like a stand-up comedian, like when they first start trying, when they're refining a joke, they get up on stage and they try it and maybe it gets some laughs, but they know it can be better. And you can kind of keep tweaking it and adding things, taking things away, changing it. And you kind of just keep using that feedback. For them, it's the feedback of laughter. For us, it's feeling the movie when we watch it with them, seeing what people say about it afterwards, and just continuing to keep refining it and keep making it better and better and better and tightening the movie as we go. But yeah, it's always a process, and Destin, on our director, really embraces that. He wants to make it the best and strongest and most satisfying version of the movie we can for the audience. And so we got there through quite a bit of trial and error.
No, it's interesting too because one of the things that people often point out is IMAX is not just about the spectacle, it's also about a close-up can look really impressive on the big screen. And there are some really intimate moments in this movie. It's a love story, it's a buddy movie, it's got all these different things that it's playing with. So can you talk a little bit, both of you, about kind of the visual language of that side of the movie and making sure it's consistent with the kind of larger moments? Again,
Um,
no spoilers. We're not spoiling anything.
yeah, I mean, I think that, very much like anamorphic lensing is, I feel like, is very intimate. I also think that the IMAX aspect ratio and format is also very intimate at times. It's really kind of portrait photography in a sense. I mean, you can frame faces really, really great. It's much taller than, normal cinema, 240 where you're cropping it. I mean, we shot for both. I mean, most of the versions that everyone's seen so far has there have been, half the theaters have been 240, which we did frame for that. But we also protected for the 190, which you'll see in the IMAX, to have that extra space on top and bottom. And when you watch it on IMAX screen in the 190 IMAX aspect ratio, because the screen is so big that it really immerses you into that composition, the taller space really helps. And it's actually, I'm a sucker for a good like scope movie. It's kind of where my brain is. My old VHSs that were letterboxed was everything that I was after when I was a kid. But being able to shoot on a format that allows such a big screen is really great, and I think helps not only the big sequences but also, like you said, the intimate ones with all the dialogue and story.
Mm.
Yeah, Nat, what's the process like for you when you're editing on a small screen and knowing that at some point it's going to be on many giant screens all over the world?
That's a good question. I leave that to Brett. I think I just trust that everything that they're doing between Brett and Destin and the visual effects team, that that part's all going to come together. But we do, we screen it ourselves, on in these with these audience previews on bigger screens, and anytime we're looking at visual effects reviews, it's on a bigger screen. So we do get some sense of that. But yeah, to answer your earlier question about kind of tone and that there's emotion in the film, there's comedy, there's action. It's kind of, we hope, a really exciting ride, and we hope that it's kind of carved out in a really satisfying way, and you kind of get this big range of tones and emotions, and that's something we're always watching throughout the process. And just again, speaking back to the previewing process, we on one of our previews we made this one change within the first 5 minutes of the film, that and then all of a sudden we felt the movie playing way more flat and kind of dead than it had previously, and we didn't get a laugh for quite a while later into the film than we had previously, and we realized, oh, it was a music change that we had made, and we're like, oh, this music cue just felt sad, and it really brought the audience down. So we're always kind of watching the tone throughout, and with action scenes in particular, usually we're always finding ways to cut them down. We have a big centerpiece action scene in the film that originally was 15 minutes, and it felt tight and fine at 15 minutes, but it was, when you screen it with an audience, it was just too long, too much. You felt a little exhausted by the end of it. So we found all the ways we could kind of keep trimming, keep tightening. So we got down to 11 minutes. And yeah, we're just always kind of really keeping a very close eye on the audience. Like, as the editor, we're supposed to sort of, we weren't on, I wasn't on set. I was a couple hundred yards from set, but I'm not there. I don't know that this shot took 6 hours to get, or that, I don't have that emotional attachment to it in that way. So where it's easier for me to say, well, it doesn't, I'm trying to hopefully be a little more objective in the eyes of the audience and kind of coming to it like an audience member would. And so we're always trying to keep you guys, your perspective in mind as we're working through the edit.
Yeah, so it's all over the internet. There's some amazing shots very early in the movie that are directly lifted from early Spider-Man comics, like image by image, you recreated these comics. What can you both tell us about that process? Because it's so accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal from the very beginning. It was in the script. It was scripted to accomplish these comic book covers. I mean, again, it's a huge collaboration between stunts, and VFX, and the camera department. I mean, most of those shots are actually a person in a suit shot at a high speed with it's called a phantom camera. It shoots up to like 420 frames per second. So it is shooting high speed. You are looking at a stunt performer in a suit trying their best to recreate those poses as realistic as possible. You can't get them the way they're drawn because they're just anatomy does not allow it, but we got as close as possible. So when you see those shots, they are real people in a real suit trying their best to complete that shot at a extreme higher frame rate to get that slow motion.
Yeah. And in the edit, we pulled in the comic book covers for those shots since we were constantly, when we, a lot of those would have 20 takes and we would compare as we were trying to decide which take to go with. We were comparing it to the comic book cover and saying, oh, this one looks the most like it. The physicality matches exactly. So we would lean towards that one. But those comic book covers, I think, are part of, I think Destin and Tom and Kevin Feige and everyone involved in the movie, I think, were really listening to what fans were wanting. And it seems like people wanted something that felt like getting back to the comics a little bit more and kind of a street level Spider-Man. And I think they really delivered on something that was what people were hoping for and wanting.
Yeah, so aside from that, is there anything that while people are watching the movie, you would say, hey, this is something you wouldn't know unless you edited the movie or you were the cinematographer on the movie, something that might enhance the viewing experience in an interesting kind of way?
Hmm.
I would hope not to distract anyone to think about that. I just want you to enjoy the movie. I wouldn't want you to sit there, especially if it's your first time seeing the movie. I would not think about the anything that Nat and I did, because I think that that's our whole goal. Our whole goal is to hopefully get you immersed in the story, so you don't think about anything. Maybe on like a third watch, maybe when it comes out on streaming, then you can start kind of considering how things are actually done. But I just hope you get lost in it. I hope you guys all enjoy watching and just get immersed in the story. Less about the actual creation of it.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds like that is a good answer. Yeah, I would say we had a tighter timeline on this film than would be normal. And so we just worked extremely hard. It was a lot of work until, at least for us in the edit. I know for Brett and everyone else said they worked extremely hard too, but for us, we're going till midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. very, very, very frequently. But we still tried to have fun when we could. We had a ping pong tournament at the very end when the work finally slowed down by a touch. But no, we worked really hard and we hope that you guys enjoy it.
One last bonus question.
Mhm.
People will probably want to stick around for the post credits. There's another big Marvel movie coming out at some point later this year. How
Mhm.
much, when you work on these movies, do you know about the larger universe and different things that you have to be mindful of, given that it's a giant world of many different moving parts?
It's out there. It's always pretty malleable, to be honest. There is a lot happening, especially at, like a studio like Marvel, juggling a lot of different storylines and a lot of different gigantic tentpole movies and trying to connect them. And so throughout the production, there's always rumors and speculation as to what they're always kind of searching to see what the best version of that is. It may not be laid out right from the very beginning when you start, prep, but it's definitely an idea that they keep in their head. And, sometimes it's planned pretty far out in advance, and sometimes it's kind of comes together kind of at the last minute.
Yeah. But yeah, the Marvel part of it, I don't know if it's the same for Brett, I imagine sees the script earlier than I do. But for me, because I'm not super involved in pre-production, I don't really need to be. I usually don't see the script on these until 1 or 2 days before shooting. So there's no chance to even immerse myself by, oh, who's this character? I don't know their stuff and go and watch them. Pretty much seeing it on almost on the first day. But normally I think we all come from independent film and have more of that mindset. So I don't know this world intimately, but usually there's always a couple of people that you are. One of our producers, Emily, for us in post-production, our post-production supervisor is a big Marvel head. So usually we'd go to them and be like, so this character, what do we know about them? Have we seen them before? How do these people know each other? Usually there's people we can bounce things off of and then pivot and be, okay, I need to make this a moment because the audience hasn't seen this character before and blah blah. So yeah, usually we'll ask a couple of the nerds on our crew.
Always good to phone a nerd. Yeah, and it's certainly relevant for some of the characters you'll see in this movie. Well, on that note, Avengers Doomsday tickets are now on sale, starting just yesterday. So let's roll the show. Thank you, Brett and Nat. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, everybody, for coming
Yeah,
out tonight.
Thanks for coming out to the
Visit us in
movies.
person at some point, and enjoy the film on IMAX. Thanks again,
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
being
Eric.
here.
Thanks, guys.